What is up, and welcome to the Finding You Buyers Live show, where we find you buyers live. This is episode 21, and today we have one of the coolest guys that I know, one of the most important guys in my business as well. Even though Benson isn't like directly in my business, the influence that he's had on the lives of so many wholesalers, so many real estate entrepreneurs, it's outstanding. Benson is the owner of Privy, the software that we use for this show, and I use it on almost every single one of my live streams. You'll catch at least a peek of me using Privy. So, Benson, thank you so much for being on here.
My pleasure, man. It's been good to catch up with you. We were just chatting a bit about what's coming up in the industry and, all the things that are working for us. And it's just been an amazing ride. It's so cool to see how you've been blowing up lately.
Thank
I
you.
remember we saw each other at the Squad Up event, and I hadn't seen it in a while. And the next thing I do is I see, and you got this meme you're carrying around, and you're just like raising a ruckus. And I was like, "There's Nathan doing his thing."
I try not to. I try to make it really hard for people to ignore me. I try to stand out. I think that it's a good way of marketing.
Yeah, it was great. And you had like a QR code on there, and so you were like raising awareness to like do deals with you. What was the purpose of that?
Yeah, so it was really hilarious. So I made this why you no send deals meme, and it was like the cringe dude. I don't know if y'all understand the memes, but cringe dude, Google them. And it said why you no send dealswithnate.com. So it was like an indirect call to action, right? Why you no send deals means send me deals, and go to dealswithnate.com to send me deals. So then when we get them to the landing page, we can explain all the reasons why we should be on their dispo wholesalers list. Because as an acquisitions wholesaler, I want to make sure that if I'm sending it to a dispo wholesaler, they're actually going to do something with it. They're actually making it worth my time. Because a lot of people will raise their hand and be like, let me sell your deals. And then you send them a deal and nothing happens. So we send them to the landing page, and then they're immediately greeted with a video talking about like what exactly we're going to do once we have their deal. So we're going to bring it to our buyers. We're going to give them feedback. If they need EMD, we'll help fund their EMD. We'll give them a full breakdown of it. We'll be boots on the ground if we need, and just listing off all the different benefits to why they should take action and send us their deals, as well as linking a bunch of free resources for people that are getting started. Because I really try to cater to the new people, the people that are just getting started. Because if you build up that loyalty and if you help them out when they're getting started, you have like a lifelong business relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many people out there that right now are just kind of floundering. They want to be in the business. They're kind of maybe on the fringe of some of these communities like Astro Flipping or Sub 2, and maybe they join, but they're just not taking action. And so having somebody that's relatable, who is like, it isn't Pace or Jamil, but it's somebody who's, a little bit, not lower, but at a different point in the journey, who they can talk to, right, and can ask questions of. And that's what you've been so good at, is being around every single day for the last 7 months. You've live streamed and put yourself out there and are making yourself a resource for all these people who are starting off or have done a deal or two and just need to be part of something. And you're helping all these people. It's pretty cool.
Thank you, Benson. I appreciate you. And I really appreciate your consistency as well, because everybody knows about Benson, everybody knows about Privy, and I'm so glad that we have this software available to us. I don't know if everybody on my live stream knows how valuable Privy is to me. Like, I use it on the acquisition side, finding my deals on the MLS. I use it on the disposition side, finding my buyers and selling my deals. And I use it in the middle, comping my deals. So there's not a day that goes by that I haven't used Privy. I probably use it 7 days a week. Like, even on the weekends, I will casually get a deal in my inbox and I will check it out on Privy really quick. So thank you, Benson, for creating such an awesome, powerful software for us.
Oh, I wish I could say that I was the brains behind the operation, but we have an amazing team. My business partner, Scott Fall, is really the mastermind behind the software. And we just have an amazing team that's been building it out for years now. Obviously, we've been around for quite a while, and they're constantly improving it. And we've got an amazing customer success team now who helps people with training and staying engaged and getting their aha moments when they use the software. And then our developers are just, it's growing. Like the team is, I mean, it was one guy many, many years ago. And now we've got an engineering team that's approaching like 8 people.
Wow.
And it's pretty cool to see them just always building really cool stuff.
That is awesome. That is super awesome. All right. Well, guys, this show is to find you guys buyers. So I'm going to start by giving you guys a demo of like how I go on Privy and how I find buyers. And maybe Benson, along the way, if you see any like ways that I can optimize what I'm doing, just let me know.
Yeah.
And what I would love for you guys to do that are watching is in the side chat, if you can put in the side chat the location that you're doing business. And I'm going to go find you some buyers and I'm going to drop the info in the side chat for you. So put the location that you're doing business in the side chat. It's both a good way to get more buyers to your list because we're going to find you buyers, but also, people get to squat up in the side chat.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen here.
I got a question for you while we're working this.
For sure.
So there's so many people out there that have different sources of lead flow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at part of this mastermind called Investor Fuel, and a lot of the guys that are in these groups are looking for volume, right? So they spend money on marketing. They could spend money on mailers, and they go out and they do pay-per-click, and they're spending, like, some of them are spending 6 figures a month. Like, what do you say to people who are like, oh, you can't find deals on the MLS? If they were good deals, then they would have been gone already. Like, how do you work through that? Because I know you're doing it, right? So the proof is in the pudding, but what's your thoughts process around that?
Yeah. It's interesting when people come to me here. I'm going to pause this for a second because this is such a good question. Yeah. So many people come to me and they're like, dude, I'm spending a lot of money on PPC, or like I'm spending money on insert whatever paid strategy. How do you find deals on the MLS? It's so simple. Like you can go on Privy. I can literally find you a deal in less than a minute. And here, just to show them that, like, oftentimes I like to counter with data, right? So if you want to find a deal on Privy, you can just click fix and flip, click find active similar deals, and then we'll just give it a moment to load. And then, for example, I like Tampa, Florida. So I'm going to do Tampa, Florida. And now a lot of these will be deals, but I like to niche it down a little bit more just because I want to be as efficient. So year built, a maximum of 2,000, run search. Another thing that I like to put, and if you want to offer on deals that just hit the market, offer on them, but I prefer to wait 14 days at least. That way, the agents get a little bit less impolite, because if I offer right as they hit the market, they're a little bit upset and offended when I give them a realistic price. So I put 14 days. That way other people can give them a low offer before I do. Okay. And then cool. Just like that. Right. We have a deal right there. So for anybody that says, oh, you have to spend all this money just to find a deal, here's an opportunity right here. Now, of course, you're going to have to comp it, make your offer, and maybe or maybe not, they're going to take it. But if you put them on a follow-up campaign, more often than not, you're going to get them on the follow-up. Usually we end up getting the contracts after like 2 to 3 other wholesalers have not performed, because other wholesalers will come before us. They'll offer way too much, and then we'll offer a realistic number, and we'll just have to wait it out until the other wholesalers fall out of contract.
It is that simple. It's amazing how simple it can be, but it's just like off market. You're gonna have the same problems as if you did on market. And with off market, people are like, oh, well, there's less competition for deals, right? And off market, the majority of people that are doing off market are targeting lists. So they're going after probates, tax liens, divorces, bankruptcies, foreclosures, absentee owners, vacancies, right? Those are like some of the top ones. But who's buying those lists? Well, everybody's buying the same lists. So there isn't any one list that you can buy that's exclusive, because it's all public records. So
Yeah.
I feel like there's more competition for off-market leads because everyone's out there just like power hitting these lists with text messaging and mailers and calls. And so I think you're going to have more competition with off, and you're going to have way more inexperienced people because it's so
Yeah.
easy just to like blast a list. Right. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
what a lot of people are taught. The very first thing is like, how do you blast a list with SMS or mailers or any of those other opportunities? So they're getting just slammed with people who are talking to them who don't know what they're doing, who don't
Hmm.
have privy, they don't know their numbers, and they give these high offers because they just want to get a deal on their contract. They're not thinking about, well, can I actually disposition this thing?
You know, it's crazy, Benson, and I get really passionate about this, but it's kind of dangerous blasting those lists because there's a lot of people that are on the DNC list, the do not call list. There's, a lot of people that think, you can just willy-nilly text blast a list of people that haven't given consent. But there's potential for people to actually get fines when they're cold texting people without their permission. So according to the TCR, the Telephone Consumer Regulatory, you're supposed to get permission from the people that you're marketing to. So if these are just random homeowners and they haven't given you your permission, you're going around the rules, and there's potential for them to get upset and try to fine you. And it's actually happened to some people where they've blasted a whole bunch of people, and I think it's like a small fine of like $500 or something like that. But like if you get a bunch of those, or like everybody gets together and they do a class action, that can be a major issue for you. When it comes to real estate agents, they're putting their number out there. They're saying, "Hi, I'm X real estate agent. Please call me. I want to do business." So it's different. It's a different dynamic.
Hmm. You're right, but you said a small fine. $500 is not small. Like the
Yeah.
average person who's starting off in this business needs to come and get EMD from you or from Jamil or from another service like a Gator because they don't have $500. So that $500 is integral to like them either like continuing in this business or just quitting. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very dangerous. But just even without the fines from a practical standpoint, on market is a way easier way to get going to create opportunities and leads that are free, that are low hanging fruit. And if you just do the things you need to do, like understanding the neighborhoods, right? Do your local market research, figure out what a deal is, look at what other people are buying properties for, what are their buy boxes, build that buyer's list up, just connect with local agents who are doing deals, and then using Privy's algorithm to find leads. You've just covered all three aspects
Mm-hmm.
of what you need to do to get a deal. And then at that point, it's just doing the stuff every day, and you will get deals, and it'll be way cheaper. It's going to be a shorter process from starting to getting your first deal done. And it's way more interactive and fun because it's all done virtually, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're on a computer doing the majority of this work, and it almost feels like you're playing a video game.
Well, yeah, just to come on that virtual aspect of it, like I'm in Playa del Carmen, Mexico right now. You can literally run this entirely virtual with these tools. You don't need to be driving physically in a neighborhood, you know, with your telescope looking for ugly houses. Like you can just use softwares like Privy and find deals on Privy. I mean, we found a deal on Privy, and like I wasn't timing it, but it would have been like a minute, maybe a minute and something. And we can find buyers in like a minute and something. So it's totally doable. You can do like a deal or two a month. Gosh, with how strong purchasing power is in other countries, you could potentially even do like a deal every 2 months and still be comfortable in other countries. Like here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, it's like 2000 USD, and like you can have a really, really, really nice place. Great accommodations, extra spending money, all for $2,000. Like there's a rooftop pool, there's a rooftop gym. Like I have a wraparound balcony, and it's so cheap. I think this Airbnb itself is like $1,200. So if you utilize these tools, you can do this anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And there's so many good lessons here that you're going to come across, and just for the business in general. Like I know that we're talking about Privy now, but Privy is a part of this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's I believe it's like the foundation because it's all about the numbers, right? If you don't know the numbers, then you're going to write bad offers and you're going to get into a deal you shouldn't be in, that you're not going to be able to dispo, and you're going to have to cancel, or you're going to pass up on properties you shouldn't be passing up on because you think you have to be at 50% or 40% of the ARV for the numbers to work. But the actual active investors in those markets are paying way more, and people wonder why they can't get a deal under contract. It's because they don't know the local market realities and they don't know their numbers.
That is such a good point. Let me put that up on the screen. So,
Yeah.
Benson, if you don't mind, can you explain the that again with the knowing what buyers are buying at? Because I think a lot of people might kind of overlook that, but that's such a powerful tool. So I'm gonna pull
It's
something up
huge. It's huge. So we've all heard of the 70% MAO formula, right? Maximum allowable offer. And so what I tell people is if you use a formula that's universal like that, it means you don't know what a deal is, right?
here.
Now you may be able to locate one because everything that's really, really low will make sense most of the time, but that's why it's so hard to find a deal in most markets, is because they're offering low ball offers. But if you know that a buyer in a particular market, and this is called Joe Home Buyer LLC, is paying 70% of the ARV, and you can find something that's at 68%, well, you can make a 2% margin on that. And a 2% margin in a place like Tampa could be $5,000. That's an amazing assignment fee for a property that spent literally no money to find, and you didn't have to do any marketing. You didn't have to do follow-up on somebody who's in foreclosure, who you have to chase for 8 months, and they finally return your phone call. Like, it's so much less work that it's mind-boggling. Now you're looking at one right there, right? If you make that a little bit smaller, it's actually abbreviating it. It was the percentage is gone. So if you
Oh,
make it
okay.
just a tad smaller, they got it at 62%. So now you know that a buyer is willing to buy at 62% of the ARV in this particular market. And you also have a sense of what their buy box is, their buying criteria, because you're looking at a property that fit that buy box.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll know that the buyer who bought this, right? If you go to assessor's records real quick, and then you scroll down on the left-hand side, on the bottom left-hand corner, Equity 305 Milan LLC is the company that flipped this property. So this is how you find the buyer, but now you understand their buying criteria because you're looking at a house that they just closed that fit the criteria. So this isn't giving you the full picture, but you do know that they would buy another property that's similar to that one,
Mm-hmm.
which puts you worlds ahead of where you would be if you were using the old-fashioned way of building a buy box. So you don't know what their criteria is until you talk to them.
Yeah. And you know what's really cool about this as well is you can see trends in neighborhoods, right? Like there's this river right here. And a lot will change being on the other side of this river. So you can get an idea of like what are buyers buying for, what percentage on that side of the river. Well, let's go check. 60% on that side of the river. Let's check a couple of them here. I think that's the same one.
One of the things that's pretty enlightening about this thing that we're doing is you're seeing that people are buying stuff on market and off market. So any sort of misnomer that people had when they look at, okay, no one's buying stuff from the MLS, you can prove wrong just by looking at the history. Like the data tells the story. Like so far, one or out of the two we looked at were purchased from the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
So 50%. In some markets, it's approaching 70% of properties are purchased from the MLS as opposed to off market. And so it's a great thing. So you can see there, that one's a public record. So that means they got it direct from seller. So it's very interesting to see that. And then you also know about from the buyers, like we know that this buyer may not buy stuff from the MLS. So if you get something from the MLS, you're going to have to convince them that it's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the last property we looked at that was purchased at 60% was from the MLS. We don't have to convince that buyer that there's MLS deals because we know they already bought one. So like we've already sort of like chopped off at the obstacles by doing the local market research. And here's another on market deal. Like they got that one at 39%.
Jeez, that's wild. And you can like kind of gauge as you get better at running your numbers, you can kind of gauge the level of rehab like this. I can see why they got it at 39%. That's a heavy rehab. You
It
know,
is.
probably all new windows, all new siding, roof, AC. I would assume the interior is probably the same or worse. So
Yeah,
very,
look at
very
the
heavy
after
rehab.
product though too. Like they did an amazing job. You can see that they made it looks like a new build to me.
Yeah.
Now, right below this, it shows you the timelines. If you go up a little bit higher on this, did this already close? Oh, there we go. 109 days under construction. So that's actually pretty quick for the condition that it looks like it's in.
Mm-hmm.
But that also goes to show the aptitude and the experience of the flipper for them to get in here and turn the before into the after. They had to be really good at what they do. So that means that that's even a higher quality buyer that we want to work with, because we know they have the ability to execute, which is different than what most people know about buyers, where it's just, you're meeting them at the local REIA or you're meeting them in a Facebook group, and we don't know if they've ever done a deal, but we know that the buyer on this one has done deals before, and we know they're good at it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. All right. Well, I think we should start going down the list. We got a bunch of people here looking for buyers, so I'm gonna take it
Awesome.
from the top. We got Brownsville, Texas, specifically 78521. 78521. Oh my goodness. Okay. So sometimes in smaller areas, you're not going to get as many buyers, which that's just, it's a smaller area. Sometimes there's not as much activity. So we're going to look at what we do have. If there's no photos, I like to click view external listing. Okay. So this one does look renovated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then I want to go back to Privy and I want to scroll down to the bottom. I like to click on property history. And as you can see here, the person that sold it most recently, which, Flipper, is called CYFLY Investments LLC. So you're just going to copy that name there and then go to a website called Open Corporates. And once you're here, you can just search it up. And boom, there you go. Now, Texas sometimes is a pain in the butt, but I bet you I can find this one. So 9806 Los Palmales is the address, and the agent name is Yon Feng David Chen. So I'm going to copy that address, and I'm going to go to another website called True People Search. And this is the free way of skip tracing. You could always get a skip tracing company to do it for you, but I like to do it the free way. Oh, look at that. The actual entity name shows up here. So I think we should click on it. Should see what's behind it. We got a captcha here. Please click the object with the shortest lifespan. Benson, do you think a tractor or a light bulb has the shortest lifespan?
I like that it's all tractors in one light bulb. So like, even if you didn't know the answer, with deduction, you could figure it out.
Same thing here. Please click the object with the shortest lifespan. A suitcase, a briefcase, a tractor, or a light bulb. Okay, let's see if I got it right.
Where's the picture of a fly?
Yeah. Okay, so there's I don't see a number for this one. That's okay. Sometimes there won't be a number on True People Search, so we're just going to go back.
If you find a name of a person, then that's going to more likely show a number. I've actually never seen businesses show up in True People Search.
It's rare. It's rare, but here we have Yan Feng Chen. So we have his phone number here. So let me pop that in the side chat for you, Brandon. Okay, so name.
So these are two free websites, right? You're not paying for this. So a lot of people are spending money on skip tracing, which isn't all that expensive, but if you do it in bulk, it can get expensive.
Mm-hmm.
but this is another way to keep this like low cost. You guys, like Nathan's showing you the way to get started, where you don't need a bunch of money to be able to go and just do the things you got to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like you can spend a day stacking up a bunch of buyers. What I would recommend is doing it on a spreadsheet. So let me just pop that in the chat, and then I'm going to show you how you can be more efficient with your time. So I just did one buyer there, right? But what if you want to pull a bunch of buyers in an area? This area is kind of small, so I always like recommend, if you're going to wholesale, try to wholesale in a hot area. But if you happen to come across a deal in a small area, you can still do it too, just like that one. But let me
Yeah,
show
you can
you,
still
for
do it.
example.
But there's a lesson here I think that we should talk about, because it's supply and demand. So I have a feeling that Brandon lives in Brownsville, because there would be no other reason to target this area aside from the fact that you just happen to reside there. But when you are trying to decide where you're going to spend your time and effort, it's going to be a lot easier to find a deal when you know that there's demand for deals. If you only have, well, there's 5 buyers here, this is going to be a really hard area to operate in. There's just not enough demand. Could you stumble into 1 or 2 deals there in a year? Probably. But there's so little activity there that I wouldn't spend any meaningful time in this area personally, because there are other areas where you're going to get a higher return on your time investment. There might be a way to actually bring in some more buyers here, though. If you use the filter, Nathan, and click the button that says include surrounding areas underneath location on the left, upper left-hand corner.
There we go.
That'll remove the city boundary, and it brought in 2 more people. Now we're backing out a little bit further, and it's bringing in 13. But this is just not an area that has high investor activity. So when you're choosing markets, with that very first map that Nathan used, where he clicked fix and flip when you're on nationwide, that'll help you find the areas that you will have higher viability, more buyers, more demand, and then it's easier to find deals there.
I agree. You know, I have this really great metaphor for when people ask for buyers in really small markets. Would you rather, Benson, would you rather open a Walmart store in the desert or in New York, right in the heart of New York? What would you rather do, the desert or the heart of New York? New York is really competitive, but the desert, there's no clientele.
Right. It's true. And there's a few things that you can do here. Like, people, you can't solve the problem of no demand as an operator, as a wholesale. You can't solve that problem, but you can solve the problem of facing competition. And that's what people typically use when they don't want to go to an area that has high investor activity. They say, well, there's too much competition there. I'm not going to win any bids. Well, you might be able to win a bid in Brownsville, but you're not going to be able to disposition it because there's not enough demand there. But you can solve the problem of too much competition by being on top of your game, by being more effective, by knowing your numbers, by just really separating yourself from the competition, by doing the things you're supposed to do every day. You can solve that problem, but you can't solve the problem of no demand. That's what the data tells us.
I think in solving that problem of being in a competitive market, there's one simple thing that I think would set people apart from everyone else, is continue to follow up on your offers. I see so many people make boatloads of offers and they only follow up once or twice. Like, all of our deals, not all of them, but the vast majority of our deals come from like the second or third time other people have fallen out of contract with that property. Just yesterday, an agent called me and I made an offer on this property knowing that they were under contract with somebody else. But I made an offer either way because I was confident in my numbers. And then last night that agent called me and said, hey, you know, that contract fell through. And I try to maintain my composure because I knew they were going to fall through. But that's where the deals are. The deals are in the follow-up. If you follow up, there's going to be 2-3 wholesalers or other people that come before you that, you know, maybe they got into a bidding war and they realize they're paying too much, or whatever circumstance it might be. Maybe they failed to dispo it correctly, and then you end up getting it if you continue to be persistent and follow up.
Huge lesson. And that's why your CRM is so valuable.
Oh yeah. It automates the follow-up. It's so scalable.
Well, it automates it too, but it helps you track it, right? Because otherwise we get distracted by the next deal. We're always looking at the next deal and we forget about the past deals.
Hmm.
And I think the numbers are even more dramatic than you said, where, most people are only following up, once or two times. I bet you 90% of people aren't even following up twice.
Yeah.
So if you just followed up twice, you're already doing way more than everybody else out there. And that's why a nice CRM like Nathan has built can keep those there so that you can get those little reminders. You can set it up in a way to where you're moving stuff through this funnel.
Hmm.
And then if you write an offer and you move that and it doesn't get accepted, you can move it to follow up. There's probably a column here that's, so no response, right? So right there, no response, probably right there would be a way
Yeah.
for you to go follow up.
Oh, totally. So like it's so important being organized with your offers as well. I see a lot of people, they're like, I want to save money. I'm just going to do it on my phone in a spreadsheet. Yeah, good luck. Good luck saving money. It's going to cost you more money. You're going to spend a lot more time trying to do it and not get as many deals because there's really simple things that you can automate here. Like, for example, the no response category. If I call somebody and they don't respond, I put them in the no response category. Over the next, like, I think it's like 5 days, it sends a message every single day checking in like, hey, can I call you about this property, or like trying to get them to respond to me. Usually they'll respond in those 5 days at the no response, and then I can take them to the next stage, which is get on the phone, collect the information, and send them to underwriting. We have this little placeholder stage right here, the waiting for info, for just in case if like we're waiting on an essential piece of information before we can underwrite. But then we have underwriting complete. We actually have offers submitted. And Benson, this is really, really cool. So let me know if you want me to build this into your CRM. But I built an automatic offer sender where when I drag them from the underwriting complete stage to the offer submitted stage, it will automatically write up the letter of intent by populating the purchase price, the EMD amount, and whatnot. So we
That's
have that.
awesome.
And then it's also really cool because then the next day it'll check in. Hey, did we get an acceptance, counter, or decline? If they don't answer, the day after, hit them with a question mark, question mark, question mark. So you can automate so many of these things. And it's like the cost of automating versus your time, it's kind of a no-brainer. And the same thing goes with Privy, right? Like if we're trying to look on Zillow for deals or on Redfin for deals, like you can find them, but it's time consuming. It's a pain in the butt. It's hard to stay organized. I'll actually show people like what I do here with my searches. So I will look for deals on the weekend. I think my team added all of them to my CRM except for 11. But what I'll do is like I'll star them and I'll add them to a list. So let me show you how I scout out my deals. So let's say, for example, Tampa, Florida. We're going to go fix and flip, find active similar deals. We're going to put on a filter of no sooner than the year 2000. And that's because I don't want to see properties that are like 20 years old because I don't think they quite cut it on the distress level most of the time. And then I want to do days on market 14 and higher. So then I just click on grid and I just flick through these photos. So like, okay, is this distressed? And I don't think it's enough. This right here, nope, already can tell. This one right here, this one's dated. I think there's value add opportunity in it. So I just hit this favorite button, hit these three little dots, click manage lists, and add it to my list, and then move on to the next one. But what's really, really cool about that is like with that favorite button, now the next time I'm scraping the MLS, if I see a star on it, that means I already scraped it. So what's the point in adding it to the list again? So I can be really, really efficient.
And I love how fast you did that. And that just goes to show like how much of an expert you are. But there's an important step here that really highlights the difference between what you just did and what it would take to do the same, to find the same property using Redfin, right?
Oh yeah.
So if you go back to the filter, when you first clicked fix and flip, and then you click the green button that says find similar active deals, look at this filter right here. I'm pointing at the screen like people can tell where I'm pointing at. But the main difference is right here, this MLS deals section. What Privy is doing is it's looking at all the closed deals that happen, and then the easiest way to find a deal that's on market is to find the house that just went on the market, right? We're all looking for motivated sellers. The most motivated seller is the person that puts their house in the market, not somebody who's in foreclosure who has avoided paying their mortgage for 5 months. Like there's no motivation there.
Or it's like
May
some
they be
people will go after FISBOs and they'll be like, oh, but it's a FISBO. I can do direct to seller and it's free. It's like, yeah, but they're too cheap to pay an agent. You really think they're going to give you a good deal?
right. Right. So we're building a case here for why there's some stuff on the MLS that is viable. So if you can find the unrenovated home that's down the street from a renovated house, now you have margins. Margins are created by the renovated houses, not by the houses that are messed up. There's lots of neighborhoods that have messed up homes in them, but you're not going to be able to do a wholesale deal there easily until you get that first fix and flip. The fix and flip is what creates ARV. We don't know what the after repair value is of a property we're evaluating unless there's a fix and flipped house that's a comp that's in the same neighborhood that's sold recently. So when you use that filter that says fix and flip, it shows you where all of the viable areas are at, where the comps are located, where the ingredients are present for you to be able to assemble a deal. And then you use the find similar active deals filter, which is looking for a margin right here. It's looking at for properties that are at 75% of the ARV or lower. Now, based off your local market research, you can actually go in and figure out exactly where your buyers are buying, because we saw before there was people at 60%, there was people at 40. So you can get a sense of where that filter needs to be.
Yeah, here.
But if you set that filter too low, then you're going to miss out on opportunities for you to negotiate with sellers. So when Nathan's doing it at 75, he might have a buyer who will buy at 65. So he has to try to get that price down a little bit to make the numbers make sense for them.
Mm-hmm.
But when you know that, it makes it way easier because you know exactly what offer you need to write. And so that'll save you a bunch of time too.
Wow. Yeah, there's so many good things about Privy here. Hey, I think it would be really, really cool to touch on the comping aspect of Privy, since we've touched on the finding deals, we've touched on the finding buyers. Why don't we pop into a property here, just kind of give it a quick run through the Privy comps, and look at that. That's the first property I clicked, and it's already a fixer-upper. Oh my goodness.
That one's 100% viable.
Yeah, looking at all these blue comps, and Benson, what's the difference between the blue comps and the red comps?
So the blue comps are the ones that support the percentage of ARV that you use when you search for this property. So 75%. So 75% is what it's doing is it's comparing the ask price of the home, which is 190 grand, to the comps. And so what it means is all of those comps that are blue have a price that's over a certain threshold. The minimum price threshold is what I call it. Mm-hmm. So if we took 190,000 and we divide that by 0.75, that means all of those comps have a price that are higher than 253,000.
Wow.
Anything that's lower than 253 is still a comp. It just falls in a different category below this. Mm-hmm. So if you go down into the red section there, if you click sold,
yep.
And now see, we got a bunch of ones that are blue. Those are all ones that have prices higher than 253.
And we do have a couple of reds here.
And look at those prices. Like they're lower than 253.
I bet
so it's sold, but it doesn't support the percentage of ARV.
Look at this. I love this. And you can tell that like these are fixer-uppers. If they're coming below that 250 mark, it seems like they're not fixed up.
Right. And so what we're doing is we're basically automating this whole process that you would have to do on your own underwriting manually, or that you'd have to pay someone to do. Right. Nathan has this great underwriter that helps him with his deals. He still has to pay that person. But you can look at these, and everything that's blue is supporting what you're trying to get. So the more blue you have means that there's a higher is an area. See all the before and after on those. If you go down again, Nathan, scroll through there and show how many of these properties actually were flips. And you can see that because that's like the one that's on SEMS. Like it's hard for me to see.
Yeah,
that right there. So you can see the before and after. They bought it for 170.
And we can pull it up here too. Very nice.
you go to the before and after there, you can see that they got it. This was a flip, right? There's the before, on the right is the after. So one of the hardest parts of looking at comps when you guys are analyzing properties through the old fashioned way is like, is this 285 really representative of after repair value? Well, we say they bought it for 170 and sold it for 285. We know they flipped it. So this house has is representative of after repair value. The cost is. So we want to compare our subject property to other homes that were renovated. That's the whole process here that we're saying is just find the unrenovated house that's in the same neighborhood as the renovated houses, and you got yourself a potential deal.
And now, Benson, I'm really excited because, this is a fairly similar property. We got a 1130 square feet, 1943, 5,250 square foot lot. This buyer purchased it at 170,000. Our property that we're looking at right now is 190,000. It's a 3-2, 1,040 square foot house, 6,000 square foot lot. So we're pretty close. This could potentially be a good buyer. A couple of things that I want to check. First of all is, wood frame or block, because it looks like the other property is made out of masonry. So I can look here in the assessor's records and see this is a wood frame. So I want to take a look at the other one. I feel like this one's going to be wood frame plus masonry. Assessor's records. Where are we here? Wood frame, exterior walls, masonry. So the masonry one is going to be slightly more valuable, but we're really close on this one.
Well, they're actually, if you look a little bit closer, they're the same. They were both exterior block.
This one, I
construction was wood.
Yeah,
it was the same.
Yeah, so like framing wood. One thing about Tampa is like people love brick in Tampa, but we're really, really close. So I think this would be something worth calling and reaching out to and putting your offer in. Agents are always going to list it slightly too high, but you make your offer. So that property, if 285 is the after repair value, then this property at asking price is at 66% of the ARV. So we're already in the realm of where we need to be. We're not going to have to lowball this. And that's again, the benefit of doing high investor activity areas is these fix and flip properties pull the values up in those neighborhoods. When it pulls the value up, guess what? It also pulls up your offer. You don't have to submit lowball offers when you're in a high investor activity area because the area is defined by investor activity. You have higher values as opposed to an area where there's no investor activity or low investor activity that pushes the values down. But guess what happens with your offer gets pushed down too. So now you have to submit a lowball offer to make the numbers work, which is when you start to offend people because they have an unrealistic expectation about what their house is worth. So when you submit the lowball offer to make your numbers work, they're like, whoa, this is disrespectful. Like I can't believe you submitted this offer. You're wasting my time. In high investor activity areas with lots of fix and flips, that doesn't happen as often. So we're lowering the amount of obstacles that you have to overcome by targeting high investor activity areas and looking for on-market deals. Totally agree. All right, guys, let's get some comments here in the side chat. So I want to pull these up. Benson, we got a comment here from Glorful Skip. They say, hey, Benson, could you tell me more where we can find the scripts you had for Privy? I've been having a little trouble trying to navigate a conversation with real estate agents and buyers. Thank you. Yeah, Privy doesn't really have any sort of scripts or anything that we train. Privy, when we do the training with Privy, it's really about the software itself. Now, there was a time when I would do live calls and I created kind of a script. And if you reach out to me directly, Gloriful, then I can connect you with a script that I've created for myself. But we don't have anything that's like officially for Privy because we want to be really clear that we do not give investment advice there. We have to be really careful about that. And we can't teach you how to be a real estate investor, but we can certainly provide you with the data and do the things like we're doing right now with Nathan so that you can get, it put some more efficiencies in your business.
But I do have one that I can share with you. So just DM me, please. That would be a good way to go.
Awesome. Awesome. And then we got a couple people here wanting buyers. So we got Reggie in Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm gonna show you guys as an example when I find Reggie's buyers, and I'm gonna go slow because I have a tendency to. I'm so efficient at using Privy that I can find you a buyer in 1 minute, but then everybody has to replay and put it on 0.5 speed. So I'm gonna go nice and slow. So this is your homepage for Privy. As you can see here, these blue areas are really, really, really great on the data. So Jacksonville is going to be a nice area for that.
Hold off 1 second real quickly there. It's really good for the data because where it's blue, we've actually got direct to MLS data, which is really important to define the difference of. So where you see the gray and the black, like in Nebraska and Wyoming and South Dakota, you don't see any blue there. That's because we haven't actually gone and negotiated directly with the MLSs there to get that same data that agents and appraisers use. Where that data is what you might find on another platform like PropStream or Batch Leads. Still data that you can operate with, but again, you have a choice on where you can do deals. Most of the time we go and we negotiate these direct to MLS data contracts in areas that have high investor activity. So we're going to eventually be in all of the major areas, but the areas where you see blue, you're going to have much better data for comping. You're going to have better photos. It's going to be more timely. So if a property was fixed and flipped and sold, today in Dallas, right, even in a non-disclosure state right there, see how it's blue? Mm-hmm. You're going to have that. You're going to know about that sale before the county even knows about it. And in some of these areas, it could take them a week or more to actually file that sold property at the county records, and so everyone's kind of behind. But if you're quick on the trigger and you're wanting to make moves, you want to make moves on data that's happening today, not stuff that happened a week ago. And so that's why it's way more important for you to target these high investor activity areas that have direct to MLS data that puts you way ahead of the curve and the competition.
Totally agree. I mean, what stuff is happening in Wyoming either way? Like it's look at these tiny little, I don't even know if those have 1,000 people in them.
Thermopolis.
Like there's not really much of a point in being in a market with, 20 streets.
There's not. But I guarantee you there's somebody that lives there who's like, hey, pull a list from Thermopolis. I want buyers.
Yeah. Yeah, the days on market for something like that is going to be so high. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Let me get that all nice and clean. Okay, so here's our dashboard.
There, but I wanted to highlight that.
No, that was a really good thing to highlight. And I think it comes back to the whole, we want to be in markets where stuff's happening. We don't want to open a Walmart in the desert. We want to open a Walmart on a really busy, it might be competitive, but still there's a much bigger market share for you to grab than, 3 to 5 people in the desert.
100%.
Yeah. So for finding buyers, it's so simple. If you blink, you probably miss it. So I just hit that fix and flip button right there. And then I'm going to type in the market that I'm finding buyers in. And Reggie would like some buyers in Jacksonville, Florida. So fix and flip, Jacksonville, Florida. Now, there's also some additional filters. So for example, myself, I get new data every single month. So right now it's showing the past 12 months, but I'm going to go for the past month. Cool. Now this one, I could do it one by one, but for this one, for Reggie, because Reggie's super awesome and he shows up all the time, I'm actually going to pull a list for Reggie, and it's 72 properties. And I'm going to show you a bit of a different way that we can do it. So let me get this list up in Google Drive. That way we can look at it in Google Sheets.
Now it said properties, but is that the same as buyers, right?
Yes. So properties, and then you're going to get to see the attached buyer to them. So here, let me just name the sheet, Jack's buyers May. Okay. So now we have the property that was flipped, city, state, zip, status sold, date that it was sold, and we have a whole bunch of data here. And this data, it's good. But for myself, I'm like, whoa, Benson, this is a lot of data. So I really love the data. But for the sake of skip tracing the buyers, I am going to remove these columns. But it's better to have more data than not enough. So I want to see the entities that purchased it. So I'm just going to clean up the sheet a little bit. Okay, so owner 1 business name, owner 2 first name, owner 2 last name, owner 2 middle name. Delete columns. Previous owner name. Now, because these were flipped, we want to look at the previous owner name.
Well, it depends. It depends.
Please elaborate.
So because it's flipped, remember I said that they don't record at the county for a while. So sometimes the flipper is still listed as the current owner in Privy data because we've got the direct to MLS. So if that thing was recorded at the county more recent or later than more recently, the flipper will still be in the current owner.
Okay. So essentially they could try both and whichever one hits. So
Well,
they can
do
get a higher
you have a
hit rate.
specific skip tracing company you use?
I
Or
use
is it okay?
So what I do is I get one of my VAs to do the open corporates, True People, and then paste it there. Because I noticed with the skip tracing companies, with the LLCs, I don't often get as high of a hit rate as the True People search.
Is it okay if I make a suggestion?
Please, yeah.
So there's a company that I work with. The owner's name is JP Kilduff, and he owns bestskiptracer.com. They actually have built in a process that takes into consideration this thing that happens with Privy, because our data is so new that we often get the data before the county does. So he built a process to where it looks at both columns, and it goes and it skip traces the LLC first, and then it actually will go in and look at the rest of the data. And we've tested this, and it's like over 70% hit rate on LLCs.
Okay. That sounds more efficient.
It is. And this is, again, if you're doing it on bulk, right? Like True People search, I prefer that because I like to look at each deal, and I'm learning about the buy box of the buyer while I'm doing it one by one. But if you're going to go and do this at a higher level, then you're going to use a skip tracing company. This is the one I recommend. Now, I do have a link. Is it okay if I share it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. If you want to drop it in the private chat, I'll pop it into the main one.
And then if you want, Nathan, I can connect you with JP.
Please, for sure. Yeah, I would love that, because right now I'm paying my skip tracer $4 an hour, and they're doing approximately 200 to 250 records. So four times 4 hours a day. So $16.
There you go. I just put it in the private chat. So this company here is one of the best companies for skip tracing LLCs that I've found out there. They use a two-step process for first finding the LLC, looking at the registered agent or the director or the managing members, and then they go and skip trace those. It's super affordable, and when you're pulling this list from Privy, again, because our data is so much newer, you're going to have that time period where the flipper is still listed as the current owner, because that could have just closed today. The county may not even know about that for a week or more.
No, that's awesome. That's a much more scalable way, because like hiring on virtual assistants to manually skip trace, managing them and whatnot, it's not really scalable. It's really, really difficult. I just did the math, and for every property that that my skip tracer looks up and skips, doesn't mean that it's going to be successful, but it costs me 6.5 cents. But then again, we're going to have a decent amount of those that don't come back. So that probably costs me more like 10 cents, maybe a little bit more per skip. But then also there's another cost of there's my time, having to add her to the payroll and do payroll for her, having to manage her and, deal with when she wants to take days off and whatnot. So I'd way rather use an external company that can provide me great results, and just, here's my list, and then I get it back skipped.
Yeah, it depends on your bandwidth, right? Like you want to be spending your time on high efficiency operations, things that are money making. So if you're doing it all yourself, you definitely will get a higher return if you either pay someone to do it or by doing it through a service.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. Thanks for that plug. That was a really, really useful one.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, let's pull this list up. Reggie, let me grab you this list. I'm gonna share you the link to this list, and I would actually encourage you to, give this company a try. I'm going to be giving this company a try. So let me click anyone with the link, copy the link. I'm going to put this link into the chat. So, it's kind of like first come, first serve. I bet you a bunch of you guys are going to take this list and put it to good use. Try to be the fastest, try to skip trace it the fastest, try to reach out to these buyers the fastest. Cause if we have 20 people all start calling this list at the same time, it's going to be the first one that usually gets the buyer.
But also note too that like it isn't exclusive. Like those buyers can be on multiple lists, and they already are, right? So the fact that you guys are all reaching out to the same buyer, they're going to get a few calls more than they typically get, but they could be buyers for all of you.
And you know what I like about this, Benson, is like these buyers want deals, right? They just sold a deal and they're like fresh and ready for another deal. And this is why I like to pull the last month, because if you call somebody that flipped a deal like 9 months ago, they're like, yo, I'm already past that. But if you call somebody that just sold the deal within like a week or two, they're like, I'm ready for another one. Bring it on. What you got? And they answer and they're enthusiastic. Versus the old data. If you're blasting old data, you're not going to get as good of hit rates. They're not going to be as cooperative and excited for your call.
That's true.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, I really, really hope that you guys, get a lot of value from this. If you have any questions, let's spend this last couple of minutes here answering some questions. So pop your questions in the side chat here. There's a lot of people that I want to recognize for being on here. Yarlees, thank you for being on here. Carolyn, thank you. Shai, thank you. Ken, thank you. Reggie, of course, thank you so much, brother. Nice to meet you, Nick. Nick, you're from Benson's YouTube channel. Nice to meet you. Brandon, nice to have you on here. Let's see, who else do we have in the side chat? The CEO, that is PJ. What's up, CEO? How you doing?
This had a question. She says, so the people on True People Search are already skip traced.
Interesting. Okay, it's hard to say yes or no. I mean, it depends on the definition of skip trace. You like on True People Search, it's like a database of people's data. All you have to do is just pop their address in and do an address search and then click on them. So if that counts as skip trace, then yes. So I think so.
It is worded interesting. So the public record, so you guys, this data is out there, and it's just skip tracing companies are just tapping into existing databases to try to find contact information for those people. And what I learned about skip tracing is that, so most of the public record data that's available out there comes from insurance companies.
Oh, really?
It does. Yeah, it comes from insurance companies. And so in the past, skip tracing was derived from the word skipping bail. And so private investigators would try to find people who skip bail by tapping into these databases. And you typically had to be a private investigator or be licensed to be able to tap into it. So they started to call it skip tracing. Now, as entrepreneurs, we figured out a reason why we wanted to tap into the same databases, because we wanted to contact people for different reasons. So skip tracing services started to elevate in the entrepreneurial world for different like marketing reasons, right? But it wasn't used for that originally. So now these databases are more publicly available. There's some data that's not, right, that shouldn't be, like tax IDs, social security numbers, private information is not public. But all we're really doing by using these skip tracing services is tapping into databases that are already out there, and that data has been aggregated. And True People Search is just a free way of doing that.
I love that. This is why I love doing business in America, because in Canada, and a lot of you guys know I'm a Canadian, Canada, this is non-existent. We have really, really strong privacy laws. But in America, you can hyper focus. I like to look at it this way. You can either take the shotgun approach, which is like just casting a really wide net and getting whatever you can, or you can snipe out your leads. So in America, you can be like, this person has all of these different motivation levels because of maybe tired landlord, pre-foreclosure, water shut off, things like that. And you can like hyper target, and same with the buyers, right? You can find who it was that fix and flip the property, hyper target. This buyer is looking for 3.2s block in 33610, and hyper target and skip trace and find them. Versus like when I tried to do wholesale in Canada, you know, all you could do was just throw up a bandit sign, or maybe send an entire neighborhood direct mail, which it costs so much and it's like not efficient. So I love this access to data that we have in America for marketing purposes.
It's funny that you say that. You're Canadian, but you're currently in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks to Privy. Privy is foundational for that.
Yeah, it is crazy. You can actually literally be in a completely different country and still be operating and doing deals right here in the US.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, with that, Benson, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure running this with you. Everybody in the side chat, thank you guys so much for engaging and participating. Benson, can you drop your IG in the side chat? That way everybody can head on over.
That would be great. I appreciate any follows. I am creating lots of different content. I've got a podcast that I launched recently. It's called the REI Hacker Podcast. And we've got some cool guests, and I definitely want to have you on, Nathan, soon.
Thank you.
Here are my socials, just some different places to find me, get tips and tricks. And
yeah, your podcast is really cool. I like it. I love the setup, and I love how close you guys get to the mics.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of the things that stuck out at you, is how close we get to the mics.
It's so soothing in my ears. It's like I feel the vibrations.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, go follow Benson. You know, if you're looking to get more insights on how to use Privy, Benson, you have so much content. Like I feel like hours accumulated could be like a year by now.
Yeah. We do a lot. I do a lot on my own. I do a lot with, directly with the company. So yeah, feel free to DM me on any of those platforms, and happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Benson. Thank you guys. Appreciate y'all. And I will see you in the next one.